Welcome to Cook It. I'm Barbara Thiel, County Home Economist with the Cooperative Extension Service. And today on our program, we have Brian Kaplinger, who's the sous chef from the Thomas Edison Inn. And Brian's going to teach us how to buy fresh and frozen fish. Now, Brian, we all know fish is good for us. We hear that all the time. We hear about omega-3. We hear that we should eat more cholesterol. It's lean. It's wonderful, healthy food.
Right.
But how do consumers know how to purchase fish?
Well, there's a lot of things you can begin to look for. Today, if you go to the supermarket, you're not going to find fresh whole fish. So it's kind of hard for you to check the gills to see if the gills are fresh. It's kind of hard to check your fresh fish when you don't know if it's fresh or not. There is a couple ways you can check nowadays. When you buy your fresh fish, you can always check. You can pick it up. You can look at it. You can see if the flesh is white, and it should be firm to the touch. Shouldn't be slimy at all. Should be able to feel it nicely. Should have a good smell to it, not overly fishy. Another thing you can check too is the back of the fish. You can check the scales. You can feel if the scales are really loose, then I'd be kind of hesitant to buy it. But nowadays, when you go to the supermarket, you already have the fresh fish. It's already filleted up for you. It's already boned off. A lot of the supermarkets now are doing really well with preparing their own fresh fish. You can check any kinds of fish by just looking at it. You can ask your butcher how long ago it was caught, where it was caught, what lake, what river. There's a number of different ways you can tell. I have all different kinds of fresh fish here today. I got a fillet of whitefish. I got a couple fillets of salmon. I got some fresh perch, fresh pickerel. And for your frozen fish today, I brought some red snapper, some sole, some orange roughy, and some grouper. All these frozen fish can be found mostly in most of your supermarkets. They come IQF. It's called individually quick frozen, and they come already frozen. The only thing you have to do is put them in cold water and let them thaw out approximately a half hour. Your fish should be nice and thawed out. Now, when you buy fish, it's kind of hard to keep it fresh. The best thing to do when I go to the supermarket and I buy fish for myself, that's usually the last thing I get. I go get all my other perishables, and then I go get my fish last, including meats too, because that way you're guaranteed, it's not going to sit in your grocery cart as you're walking around the supermarket. The best thing to do when you get your fish home is to ice it down, but you don't want to put the ice directly on the fish. You would like to keep your fish elevated above the ice and put plastic wrap over top of your fish. For an example, I'll take the wrapper off of this. Now, if I was going to store this fish at home, I'd store it skin side up in a pan where the water can drain through, because fresh fish perishes real fast, and you want to keep it as fresh as possible. If I buy fresh fish, I usually plan on using it either that night or the next day. I only usually buy it then. I don't buy a lot of it. Now I'm going to put the plastic wrap over top of that fish, and now I'm going to grab some ice. And you just lightly put the ice over top of the fish so it's nice and evenly covered. And I'm sure you people at home probably don't have pans like I have here. This is from the hotel. But you can find pans such as this. You can use Tupperware plastic pans, anything of such with holes in the bottom. Put your fish in it. Put the ice on top. You don't want the ice to come directly in contact with the fish, because that helps cause the fish to... It gets wet, and that's what gets the slimy texture of your fish. Okay, now when you buy frozen fish also, there's a lot of ways you can check frozen fish. When it does come individually quick frozen, it should be solidly wrapped. Shouldn't have any open wrappings on it. A lot of times nowadays in the supermarkets, the butcher's going to already take this out and he's going to thaw it out for you. So when you get it, it'll already be thawed out. but you can still check that fish by opening it up. It should be nice and white. It should have like a little glaze of water over it, because when they individually quick freeze these, they flash them with cold water and then freeze them. So it should have a nice even coat on it. It shouldn't have any freezer burn on it at all. And then you can always keep these wrapped. And if you buy your fish frozen, keep them frozen and keep it in the back part of your freezer somewhere where it's going to get cold and stay cold. When you buy frozen fish, it usually lasts 2 to 4 months in your freezer. You don't want to let it last any longer than that. And a good thing to do if you're going to buy frozen fish like this is to label it. Mark on there the date you bought it and what kind of fish it is, and then that way you'll know for yourself. This is red snapper from Florida that I have here. And this is almost the same thing. This is grouper, but this is with skin off. Grouper and snapper are almost the same in texture and color. These are both frozen fish. And then I have some orange roughy. Fresh. This is frozen orange roughy. It's individually quick frozen also. Again, you should be able to feel it. It should be nice and firm to the touch. It shouldn't be really loose. And then here I have some sole also individually quick frozen. Again, you can see the glaze of water on there. That helps to keep it frozen and keep it in its nice shape like that. And there's so much you can do with all this fresh fish. You definitely want to be able to keep it stored in a nice cool spot. If you're going to store your fresh fish, store it again on ice and put it in the farthest spot of your refrigerator. Keep it away from all your other products such as onions, anything that's going to pick up the smell. Also, fish will give off a strong smell too. So you want to keep that away, and maybe even plastic wrap over the ice again, and that way you'll keep it nice and fresh.
Well, thank you, Brian. I really learned a lot, and especially what I liked are the varieties of fish that you brought. You have our deep water fish from the Atlantic. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. The sole, the orange roughy comes from the deep cold waters.
Sure, that we have the grouper and the red snapper. They're both from Florida.
Right.
These are cold water fish. These are really good eating fish. They're quite popular on the market today. The orange roughy, when we get this at work, we cannot keep enough of it. We sell so much of it because it is so good. It's a light, white, firm fish. It's also from Florida. Then again, we have the sole. The sole, once you thaw this out, you can do so many different things with it, and it's very good. It's also a very lean white fish.
Very mild.
Right.
It doesn't taste fishy at all. Very good.
Let me get.
Oh, what do I see?
So I have some nice fresh pickerel here. We get our pickerel in. We get it fresh usually from Purdy's Fish Market in Sarnia or Superior Fish in Detroit, depending on price and the time of year. This particular pickerel is individually quick frozen also. So this is what your fish will look like once it is thawed out. The only thing I really have to do to this fish to make it oven ready is just trim off a little of the belly fat and prep it up, and it'll be ready to go.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
I also have some fresh perch here. This is fresh lake perch we get. We get our fish in fresh 2 times a week, usually on Tuesday and Friday. We always try and buy the freshest quality fish we can find. Perch again, all you have to do is lightly batter this with some flour, deep fry it for a couple minutes, and that is good eating fish there.
It certainly is.
Then here we have some nice fresh salmon. This is Norwegian salmon. You can tell by the color. You have many different varieties of salmon. The Norwegian salmon is probably your best. You can get this at your local supermarkets. You can ask them if it's been pin boned, because there is a lot of bones that run up the back of the fish. This has already been pin boned. And if you have to take those bones out, all you have to do is get a little pair of pliers and just follow a line, and you pull those bones right out.
And it's good to mention too, the tail portion, if you're feeding children, does not have the bones. So you can always do that for your smaller children.
Almost all tail pieces of fish do not have very much bones, and we have a lot of people, when they come in to the restaurant, they request tail pieces.
Oh, those are good, and they don't smell fishy. They're
No.
so fresh. Now, I'm a fisher lady from way back, so I'm right into this.
Here we have some nice fresh whitefish from Lake Huron. Again, you can see that it's nice and fresh. I've already scaled this a little bit, so there isn't very many scales on here, but the scales that are on there are adhering to the skin real well, so you can tell that that's fresh. Always look at the color. If something looks fresh, you buy it. If I'm even slightly hesitant,
Right.
I'm not going to even attempt to buy it. But most of your grocery stores and supermarkets these days are doing a real fine job with your fresh fish.
Well, I certainly thank you. Not only did you tell us the different varieties, what's available, but how to store them. That's so important
Sure.
because you'd purchase any of this fish. It's just excellent,
Right.
top quality, but if you don't handle it right, you defeat your whole purpose.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for being
you.
our guest on Cook It, and thank you for joining us today.